What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Lumsden Motorsports Garage. I'm Wade Lumsden, and it is time to stop talking about it, and we are going to finally start on making some deck panels here. Start working on making the back portion. Boop. And we'll go through some of the little, I don't know, little things that are slightly different than your average panel, like my little center ones that hold the deck lid that comes open to access my fuel cell and all that jazz. So we're gonna stop talking about it and get to work. All right, so it is dark outside already, but I'm gonna see what I can do here. First thing that we actually before we start bending and cutting material that we want to look at is layout stuff, right? You only have so much material, and really you want to make the most out of it. So good example, here's one of my pieces. This bad boy is just under 5 foot long, which means I'll be able to make a piece, and then it just so happens this one goes in the back, right? So my pieces in the back go from T-bar to center bar are just under 5 foot long, and then it just so happens that the measurement from front T-bar to center is again just under 5 foot long. So 10 feet in length. No, that does not mean that we're going to make one huge panel or anything like that, but it does mean that we are going to be able to get lots of panels out of one sheet. So what we're going to do is I am going to cut this first sheet to length to match the length of the stuff in the back, right? So I will come over here. I'm actually going to measure it out and use a T-square, and then I will just cut straight down that. And then we're going to best lay out how the best use of the most amount of material, right? I got this one that's like 5 inches wide. I got another one over there that's like 12 inches wide, plus all your seams and all that other jazz, right? So make sure you measure all that out and try to get the most use out of the material that you have, right? You don't want to be stuck with a piece that's like 1 inch too shy of being able to use it or something, right? Use up as much material as you possibly can. So make sure you're thinking ahead when you're trying to lay that stuff out. And it just so happens that after I cut this basically in half, I'm going to be able to use the other half of the sheet for more deck pieces. So keep that stuff in mind. When you get ready to go do your layout, you can sit down and write out all of your pieces that you have to make. So a good example, I guess we'll kind of look at this one, and it's we'll call this 15 inches. So like this panel is, we'll say 15 inches across, plus I got a 1 inch drop, plus I got a 1 inch drop, so that's 17 inches. Plus I got a 3/4 inch lip, plus I got a 3/4 inch lip, so that's 18 and a half. So 18 and a half inches. I would write down my 18 and a half inches, and then let's just say I do that exact same setup for the next one, and say it comes out to the 30 inches or comes out to 12 and a quarter inches or whatever, right? So you do that, you write them all down, you figure out what your maximum is. This is a 4x8 sheet, so 48 inches, 48 inches across, and you try to fit your numbers in the best as possible to use up the material to the best of your ability. That way you don't have just a huge stack of waste and you have to go buy more expensive sheets. Material ain't cheap. So now that I've talked you guys to death, I'm going to get set up and get to hacking some material. I guess I was making too much noise last night, so on to the next day. Here we are. Talked about writing down on a piece of paper to best figure out how to use up your material. This is kind of what I was talking about here. Up here is how long the panels are from the top when they're made, and then down here is the added lengths. So how long the actual piece has to be able to make this panel for all my 90s and sports and stuff like that. So something I wanted to bring up was know the limitations of your brake. Here's a really good example on these pieces right here. These are the there's two of these. One goes on this side and one flips around and goes on the other side, and there's this nice little L piece here, right? That's what my little filler panel fits on. I pull that filler panel out to be able to put fuel in my car and access some of the pull bar stuff. And my brake, as you can see, this is really short. This is like a 1/2 inch, this little length here. The brake that I am using does not really have the ability to make a 1/2 inch brake like that. So when you're setting up, if you're copying a body that you already got, just make sure that, like I said, you know the limitations of your brake. So I'm having to make that into a 3/4 inch piece, because really 3/4 inch is like, that's what it needs. So the material doesn't shift inside this brake, because it's not, again, it's a homemade jobby. It's not the greatest brake in the world. So just kind of wanted to show you that real fast. I did cut out some material right here. Boom, this was the first piece that I cut. So remember that I basically cut a piece in half, went to the length, and when I talk about the length, I mean from T-bar to where it mounts up there. So from bar to bar, I cut that length all the way across a whole piece of material. You saw that. And now the first piece is cut, and I have some material left over here. Go back to our math that we looked at here, and I know that I'm going to cut 2 of my 7.25 pieces, which are this is the filler panel, the center one, and then that's that channel piece I was just showing you, another channel piece I was just showing you, and then I'm going to make the next 2 pieces on each side, and I should end up, if you do the math, I sat down and did the math, it's a 48 inch wide piece, so I should have 1.5 inches left of material. We're using up a really good amount of all the material and stuff, so there's not really going to be a lot left over. But something I wanted to bring up, you guys don't necessarily need to see me measure out and cut all of these things to size, right? Once you do the math and you figure out how wide your piece needs to be, good example, this one, you have the total width from here to here plus whatever your lip is going to be, and like this side, it's the depth of this plus whatever the lip is going to be, and then like this panel, I have a bend on both sides, right? So I don't think any of you guys need to see that stuff, but I did want to point this out. I now have cut into this material a lot. You can tell I'm not the straightest of cutters. Here you can see it's all wavy, right? So now I only have 2 factory edges left, 2 what should be straight edges left, right? I have this one here and this one here. So what I'm gonna do, I know I'm still gonna be cutting 3 more pieces out of this, right? But instead of getting the measurement from here to, say, one of those was 7.25 inches, from here to 7.25 inches in, and doing the same down there, and then making a line and cutting it, I am going to try to make it as square as possible. So what I'm going to do is measure from this side with my T-square, measure over, and make sure that I have the material length that I need and get it marked out and get it marked and get it cut. So the wiggly isn't too terrible, right? Because if you look, this panel is kind of a really good example, right? Like I totally, when I made this panel, it was not great. So you're making a little hem first, and then you're putting your 90 in, right? But you can see my hem is like really short over here, and then it waves and it gets a lot thicker as we go down. So that little hem on the end gives you a chance to make this piece square again before you actually break the edges. So just stuff to think about when you're doing this. I think the first time I did it, I ended up with some pieces that kind of, you know, were a little slightly cattywampus. I mean, it wasn't god awful terrible or anything, but they ended up just a little cattywampus. So just wanted to point that out, and things to think about. Back to work for me. Alrighty, so first thing I actually did is I went ahead and I took the extra 1.5 inches and I absorbed it into my two pieces that were 7¼ inches, because I can give those just a little bit more meat to make them a little bit more sturdy. They're actually probably the two of the most critical pieces that support the center of the deck, right? You got that smaller channel look right there. Those two kind of really are the most heavy duty, least forgiving. So I can put a little bit more material in there and strengthen them up just a little bit, but it also saved me from having a 1.5 inches of long strip material that really it was just an extra cut in the end. But in doing it the way that I did it, we have a mostly square piece of material. Good way to check for squares, to measure from corner to corner. Boom, 58 3/4. And then we do the same thing, going the other direction, and boom, 58 3/4. And as you can see, it is a cut edge on this side, cut edge on this side. It is a fairly square piece of material in the end, which is what we want. We want to start off as square as possible to make things work. So I now have 4 pieces of deck cut, and I think we're going to go ahead and get into the bending process. So let's rock and roll. All right, one of the next things to keep in mind is the direction of your material. If you have a face side and a back side, right? Face side is the side you want everybody to see. Back side is the side nobody's going to see. And now this is my face side here, so I'm laying that down on the table, because when I chalk material up into the break, it's going to come in and then it's going to bend up this way, and bend up this way. So the direction of the bend is going to be towards the non-face side. So keep that stuff in mind. So I flip my material over, I'm marking it for the hems, at least this hem, and then most likely what I'm going to do is make the other side hem as well, and then get my my other bends in here. We might have to strategically approach this because of how this piece of material will chalk up into the break, right? So I do need to get this bent, and I also need to get this bend, right? So I got to get both of those bends. They're rather close to each other. So which bend do you think we have to do first? Do we have to do this bend and then come back and do this bend, or do we do this bend and then chalk it up and come back and do this bend? I don't know. I'll let you ponder that, and I'm gonna go ahead and do it, and then I guess in the time of that we'll attach answers or come back and see if we were right. Alrighty, there you have it. Old, new. I made a much bigger catch for where the actual filler panel sits. I feel like anytime I've gotten hit in the back or whatever, my filler panel just like falls in or just flies out, and I'd like to kind of try to keep it in there a little bit better. I was hoping to make this a nice big landing. I did mess up though. I put this a little farther out than I wanted to. I actually wanted this to come over to here and possibly wrap up here. So my landing was actually only supposed to be, you know, about 1/4 inch bigger. It was only supposed to be like that. So that was me messing up on my dimensions. But yeah, you know, they say measure twice, cut once. Kind of the same premise for bending. But this ain't gonna hurt nothing. That's gonna work out just fine. It's nice and solid. Like I said, this lip was supposed to come over more, strengthen all that up. But you might have saw that I was struggling to get this 90 put in. I had started with this 90 and tried to move over and do this 90. There was not. This is just a little bit wider than what that's supposed to be, so I had to flatten this out a little bit to get it in there, to get it bent up. So oh well, it is what it is. If I had done it the other way, if I had bent this, I guess maybe I could have shoved it in the opposite direction and bent it. Maybe we'll try that way for the other side. So yeah, but anyways, here we are, one piece made. I should be able to lay that right on top of that one, and there we go. Other than that being, well, a lot bigger than I wanted it to. Boom. there you have it. Now I need to make sure that I pay attention to what I'm doing when I go to make the other one. You need to pay attention to what direction you're bending stuff. So yeah, in the time lapse you probably saw that I had to transfer a mark when I wanted to make this bend here. Had to transfer the mark up to the top side instead of it being on the bottom side. That way you can see it and bend it that direction. But there you have it. One piece done. I'm gonna go ahead and make the other one. Hopefully I can do it without making that measurement mistake that I made before, and then we'll move on to other panels. Alrighty, I now have the second one made. That there's the second one. That there's the first one I made. Remember, I made like stupid big shelf there on that one. This one's just a little bit wider, not drastically. It's only like 1/8 of an inch or so wider than the original on the bottom. And then this is actually what I was going for. You can see that I folded it in on itself here and then folded both of them together, so this piece in the center is a really strong L. So that's what I was going for. I think what I did over here when I did this is I was like, oh, I want a 3/4 of an inch lip here and 3/4 of an inch lip back. Well, I forgot that I wanted to double this and actually fold it over into here and then make the break right there, which is originally what I wanted to do. But hey, this is not going to hurt anything. Decent. I just you know, I guess I wasn't paying attention. It is what it is. Hey, gonna work. Those two pieces are done. Now it's on to really the easy stuff to make, which is the end panels here, these things. So it's going to be a 3/4 inch lip and then a 1 inch bend, 3/4 inch lip, 1 inch bend. That is going to be the pieces that sit next to these that are still within the inside of the deck. I guess I can show you on my little drawings. That's going to be these pieces right here. So there's still 2 more pieces to go on the outsides, or 1 on each side here. And really those are relatively easy. Now I didn't show you or even talk about cutting out the little deals here. So these are all cut out to where they will sit on the square or the angle, whatever you happen to be using. I did have to cut those out over here. It was pretty simple. I actually folded in the first one and then I measured and cut, but I wanted 1 inch in because I like to give myself just a little bit of play on that whole mounting thing. Really, this one side's going to have a 3/4 inch piece of square and the other side's going to have 1 inch angle on it, but I just do 1 inch and 1 inch, and that gives me a little bit of play in and out for the mounting of this. Anyways, just make sure that your top is good the way you want it. Trim it out where you got your pockets. I feel like it's easier to trim the pockets beforehand, and then you have the line on this side and the line on this side to line up when you make your break, right? But you can always trim them out afterwards. You can always just break these things and then come back and cut. Totally up to you. That's just the way I did it. All right, I think this video is probably getting a little long now. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to making the wider deck panels. I really would love, I wish I had a bead roller. If I had a bead roller, these deck panels that are much wider, you know, 10 to whatever inches, I'd probably put a nice bead roll in there to help stiffen them up, but that is not the case. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Any questions, comments, concerns down below. Lumsden Motorsports Facebook page. We still have Lumsden Motorsports Win the Show, Be the Show t-shirts. Since my brother's not here, keep the dirty side down, and we'll check. Yeah, we'll see you guys next video. Peace.